Een pauze. Even mezelf verliezen in een andere wereld. Film helpt ook om gezond te blijven. Daarom zijn wij Vitamine Cineville begonnen. Zodat onze pashouders, ook al zijn de bioscopen dicht, thuis toch een aantal echte Cineville films kunnen bekijken. Maar dat lost natuurlijk niet alles op. We missen samen kijken. We missen een volle zaal die in lachen uitbarst. Of die juist plotseling muisstil wordt. We missen jullie. Dus dachten we, als we nou toch allemaal samen een film kunnen kijken, als we dat op de een of andere manier kunnen organiseren, ook al zijn we dan niet in dezelfde ruimte, dat we dat toch samen aan het kijken zijn. Dat gaan we vanavond doen. Dat gaan we proberen met Jumbo, een geweldige premièrefilm. Dus over de liefde tussen een meisje en een kermisattractie. En helemaal super is dat Zoé Wittock, de regisseur van de film, na afloop online komt voor een Q&A en jullie allemaal je vragen kunnen stellen. Ik ga je zo nog even voorstellen voor een korte introductie van de film. Maar ik moet eerst even wat technische dingen uitleggen. Het idee is dus dat we straks allemaal precies tegelijk op play drukken en dus allemaal precies tegelijk naar de film zitten te kijken. Daarvoor moet je nu even zorgen dat je de film klaar hebt staan. Als je al een Vitamine Cineville account hebt aangemaakt, dan weet je vast de weg al, dan komt dat goed. Als je dat nog niet hebt gedaan, dan moet je dat nu even doen. Ga dan naar vitamine.cineville.nl. Voor je e-mailadres in, verzin een leuk wachtwoord. En als er dan staat dat je een voucher moet invullen, vul dan je pasnummer in. Dan ben je binnen. Zo makkelijk is het. Ja, behalve als je geen Cineville pas hebt. Dan kun je niet inloggen op Vitamine Cineville. Maar in dat geval kun je de film toch kijken. Bijvoorbeeld op Pickle, P-I-C-L. Daar moet je dan wel even voor betalen. Oké, je hebt de film klaarstaan. Dan het volgende. Na afloop doen we dus een Q&A met Zoé Wittock. En het zou natuurlijk superleuk zijn als je dan een vraag wil stellen. Dat kun je doen door een reactie achter te laten waar je deze stream kijkt. Dus op Facebook of op YouTube. En je kunt je vraag ook tweeten. Dan moet je ons even taggen met @Cineville. Wat je ook kunt doen, wat eigenlijk het allerleukste is dat je kunt inbellen met Skype. Dan kom je hier op tv en dan kun je live je vraag stellen. Als je dat wil doen met Skype, dan moet je even in de omschrijving kijken en op de link drukken. Als dat niet lukt, kun je ook met je Skype-account ons toevoegen als vriend. We heten Cineville Skype. Als je nu al weet dat je straks een vraag wil stellen, of misschien een vraag wil stellen, is het handig als je nu alvast dat even doet, dan zijn we er op tijd bij. We proberen natuurlijk alle vragen te laten beantwoorden door Zoe, maar we hebben een beperkte tijd, dus stel ze scherp. Okay, for the English viewers, I'm going to do a recap of the way we're going to do this. So the idea is that we're all going to watch Jumbo at exactly the same time. So it's important that we all press play at the same time. So now you have to make sure that you have the movie ready to go. If you already have a Vitamine Cineville account, then you should know the way. If you don't, you should go ahead and make that account. Go to vitamin with an E at the end, .cineville.nl. Fill in your email address, make up a nice password. And when you're asked for a voucher, give your Cineville card number. And then you're in. It's easy as that. Except if you don't have a Cineville account, then you cannot log into Vitamine Cineville, but you can still watch the movie, for instance, at Pickle, P-I-C-L, which does require payment. Okay, now you have the movie ready to go, but there's also this. Afterwards, there's a Q&A with director Zoé Wittock, and it would be awesome if you would ask a question. You can do that by commenting wherever you're watching this stream, so either on Facebook or on YouTube. You could also tweet us your question if you tag us with @Cineville. What you can also do is call us with Skype, and then you will be live here on TV to ask your question in person. You can do that by pressing the link in the description, and if that doesn't work, adding us as a friend with your Skype account, and we are called Cineville Skype. If you think you might want to ask a question and you want to do it through Skype, it's best if you add us right now, so then we're all here in time. Okay, everyone knows what to do. Then I think it's time we get our special guest on the phone, the director of Jumbo, the film we're going to watch, Zoé Wittock. Zoé, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And we can see you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our very first virtual viewing party.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This is such a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I feel it's my first time. So very curious to kind of see how everything unfolds, you know?
Cool. Where are you calling from right now?
I'm actually calling from somewhere in the west of France, which is Ile-de-Ré. I was here actually on the weekend when right before they announced the confinement and quarantine. So I decided to stay. I figured it might be better for inspiration.
Cool. So you're trying to make the best of the situation.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's really hard. I think it's been the same for everybody. But last week, when everything kind of started unfolding, and you know, obviously also Jumbo was supposed to come out in the theaters. Last week was really hard. Everything went so quick, so fast, and was so new to everyone. And you know, it was very difficult. I guess this week I'm trying to make the most of it. Still, the brain is still there with, you know, everybody out there on the front kind of combating the virus and everything. But we need to kind of keep going and staying home at the same time. So that's why I'm here tonight with you guys. I guess keep going, right?
Yeah, right. And it's chaos for everyone.
Yeah.
Have you been watching any films at home in isolation?
I just rewatched Black Swan last night.
Oh.
So that was fun. You know, I had only seen it once in the theaters back in 2010. So it was very nice to kind of re-see it again today and get that experience. But maybe, you know, tonight or another night, I'll try and go for a more uplifting movie.
Yeah, I think Jumbo is a great film to watch in these circumstances.
Yeah. I hope, you know, like sure it's extraordinary, but it's a fantastical film. So hopefully, you know, you get taken on a ride with it, and you kind of get a little bit out of your apartment with the film. You know, kind of feel like you're somewhere else. Right.
That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say to everyone at home before the film starts?
No, well, you know, the one thing I do want to say is I'm really glad to be sharing this experience with you guys. I really hope to see you for the Q&A after. I mean, I think this is the first time for everyone, so it's so exciting to be kind of going through that together. I hope you enjoyed the film. You know, I don't like to say too much about the film ahead of it, because I'd like to keep the surprise for you guys, and to just have a very fresh and, you know, non-influenced opinion, your opinion of the film afterwards. So I just hope you enjoy it and you get taken by the ride of the film, literally.
Okay, Zoé, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you after the film for the Q&A, which starts at 10:15.
Yeah, see you again in, I guess, an hour and a half.
Ja.
Like
Oké.
Bye.
Oké, dan kunnen we nu de film gaan instarten. Als iedereen klaar zit. Is everyone ready? Dan ga ik aftellen en dan zien we jullie weer om 10:15 heel graag voor de Q&A. Oké, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. En we zijn terug. Hartstikke leuk dat je er nog steeds bent bij deze allereerste Vitamine Cineville Viewing Party. Ik hoop dat je van de film hebt genoten. We gaan nu een half uurtje Q&A doen met regisseur Zoé Wittock. En jij wil natuurlijk ook een vraag stellen, maar hoe moest het ook alweer? Het handigst is als je dat in een comment nu doet waar je de stream aan het kijken bent. Dus ofwel op YouTube of op Facebook. En dan lees ik je vraag voor. Je kunt ook nog bij Skype inbellen. Dat staat in de omschrijving. Hoe je dat doet. So I think now it's time to welcome back our special guest this evening, Zoé Wittock.
Hi.
Zoe, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I'm hearing you clear.
Cool.
Thanks again for joining us this evening. And first of all, I'd like to ask everyone watching at home to join me in a round of applause, as we do at screenings like this. I think we're going to do a
Applause
stand
to you guys for being there.
Yes. Okay, we can all sit down. Well, what we're going to do is, Zoe, we have some people who are going to ask questions through Skype and through social media. And as they are lining up, I'll ask you some questions first.
Yeah.
First thing I wanted to ask you is just at the very beginning of the film, it says it's based on a true story. How is this based on a true story?
Well, the true story, what happened is actually I was reading the newspaper and I stumbled upon that true story, which was about a woman who had fallen in love with and married the Eiffel Tower. So that was, that got me smiling, laughing probably a little bit at first. But then at the same time, it just really intrigued me. I was like, how and why would anyone, do that? And I think, aside from just falling in love with an object, the act of getting married to that object was so public and so, confident as well. It's such a bold move that I think I just really needed to understand better and really get to know that person. So what happened is I contacted this woman who's now called Erica Eiffel, because she took the name of Lady Eiffel. So we talked a lot over email at first, and then once she started trusting me a little bit more with the kind of questions and why I was intrigued by her, then we started talking on the phone, and at that point just built a bit of a relationship. But I knew that I did not want to make the film about her. It just really spurred the idea and the inspiration of the film. And I think what was striking when I talked to her and got to know her a little bit better is that instead of really finding someone that was really weird and awkward, which was what I was expecting, someone on the spectrum, and then in the end I kind of found someone who had a very sensical way of explaining to me that she was just going through any other love story, and that's kind of where things started really making sense to me. It's like, well, what if we treat that story, which seems like a freak story on the outside, and try and understand it a little bit better and treat it like a love story, like she's actually living it, and so that's sort of where everything started.
I think we have our first caller on the line. Yes, it's Nienke on Skype. I think there are multiple watching there.
Hello. Hello. Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you too as well.
With how many people are you watching?
With five.
Oh, wow. Yay.
Are you keeping a safe distance?
Yes. We are. We're together, so that's fine.
Nienke, what would you like to ask?
Well, we are actually really wondering about the father of the
main character, because that one is not really in the movie, but it is mentioned a few times. So we were actually wondering, who is that or what? Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why we didn't really want to, we wanted to mention the father, but not have him there or, have too much conversations about him, because I think what the trauma between these two women is the absence of that father figure or, husband. And so we really wanted just to mention it so you guys were aware that it was some kind of trauma, where we didn't really want to, explain too much about it, and just kind of, by the absence of discussion about him, just let you understand that the less you mention him and talk about him, the more it becomes a trauma, between these two women. And if you think about the way that they're interacting with each other and with men around them, it feels like the absence of that man is kind of what sets up every one of their reactions, and what has sort of defined them in the last years, and so that's to answer your question. And just if I can just veer a little bit away from it, but still in regards to that trauma, what happened is when I talked to Erica Effel, who inspired the story, and then when I made more research overall about people having these kind of feelings for objects and everything, it seemed like most of them had, a few common points. It was either that, they were, had some sort of autism, and Asperger's syndrome, or that they were all coming from similar types of traumas, which is usually, which can go from sexual abuse to the absence of a parent to physical violence. So these kind of things that makes social interactions and with other humans, I guess, more complicated. So it's not all the time the case, but it's often the case. So that's why we really wanted to kind of insert one element like that in the film.
Do you actually know, sorry, I just think of it, that if you have like this fascination or sexual attraction to like technology or objects, are there like the ones who you talk to, is it also something that you can, after a couple of years, you don't have it anymore? So you, like, it's just for a period of time, you all have it for the rest of your life?
I think for talked to them, they said they're born with it, and that it's just something that it's an identity more than just something that kind of is a support system at some point in their life. So, but I do think that, just like with everybody else, whether it's about that or something else, I do think that social conditioning and social environment will impact the time where you really fully realize it, and then fully commit to it and accept it in front of a wider audience. So I would say that these things will have an impact on the way that they live their relationships. But they will tell you that this is a sensibility that they were born with, and and if you think about the idea that not all of them, but some of them or a lot of them come from some kind of autism, slight, very slight, or more severe. It shows you that, what people with autism will tell you, especially with Asperger's, that they have a special sensibility to sound, movement, to textures, and that extra sensibility, I think, makes them just a lot more reactive and a lot more prone to go towards those kind of relationships or sensations, if I can say. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, Nienke, thank you very much for watching. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
we have
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We have more questions coming in through Facebook and YouTube. This is one coming through YouTube. It's a question from Saskia. And her question is, in the beginning, I thought the sign said love it instead of move it? Was it me or was it on purpose?
Interesting. The funny thing is that I think we joked about it on set very briefly, where we're like, oh, if you change the letter, then it makes love it and not move it. But this was not something that we originally realized. That it kind of sort of came on board, like as we went along, we kind of realized it. And then it was just, sometimes it was fun to sort of frame out the M and kind of keep the ambiguity going.
Yeah. Is it an actual ride? Like, was it an existing ride called Move It?
Yeah, exactly. Move it, love it. You got it. No, yeah, it is an actual ride. It's called Move It. This one is the Move It 24 because there's different variety of that same Move It ride, and this specific one is Move It 24. But it's still a ride that we customized to make sure that it was the ride that we needed and that it was working the way that we wanted. So we had to customize it a lot.
Yeah. So you actually had kind of a casting process for the ride too.
Yeah, indeed. We worked on an international casting because we were like, there is no specific language barrier here, so we could look all over the world. Yeah. So we really became nerds of the internet and searched all over the world to make sure that we were not missing the right ride. The problem is when you have so many possibilities, you want to make sure you're not missing any of the possibilities, but it just gives too many possibilities. So it's like, how do you narrow it back down? Ride, the one that's feasible, the one that you can bring, the one that you can change and customize. So it's a bunch of compromises, but in the end we found, I believe, hopefully the perfect one.
Well, I almost fell in love with it too.
Yeah.
we have our next caller coming in through Skype. It's Karina. Karina, are you there?
Yes. Do you see me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
We do. Hello.
Yeah, see you.
Hi, Karina.
Hi. Nice to meet you. Nice movie.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question was I missed a little bit of the last question, so I'm not sure. I hope I'm not repeating. But why did you choose the attraction fair, and why this attraction?
So what happened is, the first story that I had in my hand was the story with this woman falling in love with the Eiffel Tower, and I just kind of, no matter how many people all over the world kind of go to the Eiffel Tower to see it, I've never really been in love with the Eiffel Tower. I thought it was like such an amazing place personally. So I knew that I needed to find something else in order for me to kind of also find myself within the story as well. And then, obviously I had heard about more common stories, if I can say common, about, men falling in love with cars or with dolls and stuff like that. And those were my first thoughts. But then I was like, well, it feels like it might have already been done, or it just feels like too much like fetishism. And I felt like the relationship that Erica Eiffel had talked to me about was something that was deeper than just that was going way further than fetishism. So I wanted something that was more grandiose. And then I was like, I kept thinking. And then it's just when I started thinking about, not about finding the object, but just finding the setting. And looking for the setting instead of the object kind of led me to the right object, because then I had the idea of the attraction park. And it's once that kind of idea set in my mind, it was just evident that should be the place to shoot the movie in, and that an attraction, no matter what it was, would be the best object to interact with and to kind of bring to life without going towards something that was how do you say in English, anthropomorphic, where you have human where you have human characteristics on the machine. Just keep it like a machine, which is, it's a dead object if you just look at it like that, and then with whatever tools that machine is giving you, emphasize it to make it a little bit more fantastical. But we wanted to keep it grounded in the reality of the character, which is the reality of Erica Eiffel, which is she's facing an object which to everybody else is dead, but to her and to our main character, there's something connecting and there's exchange. And so our job was to kind of make that exchange visual, create that exchange in a visual sense, something that you couldn't sense or feel in reality, but our main character can feel and sense in her reality, and sort of kind of bring that to life. And so the reason why we chose this specific ride rather than another one was, just like I was saying before, after long casting, but we chose that one because we felt that it was grandiose like we wanted, because it's a very tall ride. It's about 9 meters high and 15 tons. So it's very heavy and imposing, but at the same time, it's not one of those rides that's like, 50 meters high where you couldn't really place a human and the machine in the same frame. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to keep it grandiose, but yet still have it be able to film it in one frame and not have to do like shot, So that was a constraint that we had. And this one was so perfect because it had so many capacity of movement, which is the one thing that no matter how smart we were, we couldn't change, whatever movement it was doing. Mm-hmm. And also it had a bit of this hand feeling, look, where if it goes down like this, it's a little bit of a dangerous hand sort of enclosing you, but then suddenly the moment that you turn it around, it becomes this helping hand that's like saving this girl from falling, and like giving her this net, kind of like King Kong's hand, like I just love that image of this woman falling off the building, King Kong like catching her, and it kind of felt the same way with placing Jeanne, the main character, in the middle of that. So, it just felt like it had so many different possibilities that it just felt like it was the perfect one, But yeah, it was a long casting call.
And did you yourself did some rides also in it, or?
Yeah, of course. The thing is, you cast it on pictures and then you have to do an audition, right? So I went to see the different rides and I auditioned them. I went on them. I spent, an hour looking at them, touching them, and just like lying and looking and just trying to have a conversation of my own. But yeah, it was funny.
Karina, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Zoe, it was funny that you mentioned King Kong. A lot of people responding on social media are curious about your influences. We have Esteban, who sees a Close Encounters of the Third Kind reference. Definitely more people who see a science fiction feel to it. Can you tell us a little bit about your influences?
Yeah, I tried when I first wrote the story. I really tried to kind of go blind into it, so without any references or anything. And I was just like, what can this machine do? And what can I use from whatever tools I have with that machine to create a dialogue? So there was a few things. There was the movement. And then, you can alter that with whether it's going fast or slow, left or right, that gives one emotion or another. But then there was also, hi there. But then there was also obviously the lighting, and then there was smoke that were tools that I could use as well. So all those were okay. This is what I have. This is what I had in my head from the start in terms of how to create a dialogue. And then I started writing, and then it's only when I had to, I guess, exchange with other people that you suddenly have to bring up references. And that's when I realized, indeed, like Third Encounter, the title, Third Encounter of the Third Kind. No, Encounter of the Third Kind. Oh my God, I'm like getting lost with the English title. Rencontre du troisième type. That's easier.
That's better sounding too.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I was thinking that has that feel. So then it's definitely pictures and references that I used. And I was like, it's funny because without even wanting to, we're so influenced by everything we saw. And for me as a kid, I grew up in Africa. And so most of the films that we had were big Hollywood films. We didn't have any independent or more auteur films. So I was really... as a kid, I was really bathed with like big American films, and Spielberg, obviously, of that time, the like early 90s or late 80s, was definitely, a big influence. But But, in terms of visual references, we also talked about more recent films like The Place Beyond the Pines was a big visual references. We used to talk with our DP, and then people don't usually see that one, but it's definitely there. Like Red and Blue from Kieslowski was definitely, in terms of the use of color for an emotion, was an influence and something that we used as a reference with my DP. So those were their general references. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we have our next caller lined up,
Yes.
and it's Job on Skype.
Hi.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Job, welcome. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for doing this. And on the one hand, I hope there will be more. On the other hand, I hope to go back to the cinema real soon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. We're all a bit schizophrenic with that.
I understand now that objectophilia is a real thing, which I didn't know before I watched the film. But I was wondering, was there also something you wanted to say about sexuality on a metaphorical level?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, objectophilia is where the idea kind of started, just because of that article that I read and my encounter with Erica Effel. But what really pushed me to actually make a movie about this and not just, do a 3 or 4 minute reportage or like news report or something, was that when I met Erica, I really felt connected to her in her journey to find her identity, whether it's sexual or not, and then accept it and show it to the world. And I think as me, who's not in love with objects, but at the time I was very young, in early 20s, trying to figure myself out as a person, a young adult, obviously, sexuality going along with it and having a lot of questions. And I felt that that's the way that I connected to her in terms of that I connected directly in terms of a journey, aside from the empathy that I could have for her. I really felt like I could have gone through similar issues in terms of just searching for sexuality, identity, and everything. So I wanted to make sure, and that's one of the reasons why I chose an attraction and chose the tone of fantastical and using fantastical elements to play with it so that we could widen it to a wider subject that, sure, on the first layer of the film is about objectophilia, but when you look deep down, it's like it's just a call for acceptance and very different differences generally, and of course differences of sexuality. And what I thought was really interesting is that if I can get someone, because that's what happened to me when I talked to Erica, but like if I could get the audience to have some kind of empathy for this character and understand that character and question the character, but themselves along with the character, as like, do I accept this or not? Then I thought, well, if I can get them to ask that question for such an extreme sexuality, then it might also, depending on who that person is, question also every other question they've had about new sexualities or new, I guess, sexualities that are newly communicated about or more freely communicated about. It would push them to ask questions about that, and maybe, even if they don't accept this one, which is objectophilia and that story, even if you reject that story, it still will question you on more normal sexualities. Some sexualities that might be like really out there, but if you look at that one, then you're like, oh, maybe this one is not so out there, and I think it helps in terms of rethinking our overall thoughts and vision of people around us and the way we're connected to them. And what I also thought, and then after I'll stop talking because I think I'm talking a lot, but what I also thought was really interesting is that when people talk about objectophilia, they talk about a sickness, and obviously the person living it doesn't feel like it's a sickness. And I just felt a huge parallel with however, gay people were treated 60 or 70 years ago, where people were saying homosexuals are ill and, it's a mental illness that we need to cure. And we've seen a lot of movies about that, and I felt like, well, it's interesting because it's exactly the same process that we're having here. So who's right and who's wrong? We don't really know yet because history hasn't gone that far yet. But we're in that. I feel that we're in a moment where a lot of questions are being posed and asked, whether it's about sexuality or gender or identity generally.
Thank you. Great answer to a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Looking at the socials, everyone is raving about the performance of Noemi Merlan, the lead actress in the part of Jeanne, who we of course also know from Portray, la jeune fille en feu.
Yeah.
We have a question from Clone Club Couture, and they are asking, what prompted you to have Noemi portray the lead role, and how did you go about crafting Jeanne's character?
Very good question. It's really, actually, the way that I casted Noemi is quite anecdotal. It's quite funny. I'll tell you very quickly about it. It's that, so Noemi, she came in really, really early in the casting process. So it was a normal casting process. She was one of the few girls to come in, and I was a little bit, I loved her performance. I thought it was so authentic, but she was really strong and really, she had such a presence on screen that I felt she might be too strong for the character. So I did not call her back at first. So it was more, it was only a few months later, after I had seen like more than 150 girls some of them were really great, and some of them I had called back. But I remember Noemi just always being in the back of my mind. And as I casted other girls, I think Jeanne's character became clearer in my mind. And then I was like, I think I made a mistake with not calling her back. And so I called Noemi back 8 months later, and I was like, please come back, please, and she hadn't shot yet Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So she was not, she didn't have the aura that she has now. She was, I guess she had done some stuff in France, but she wasn't who she is now, I guess. So she came back because she loved the character and she loved the movie and really wanted to play in it. And I was very thankful for that. And then she just made me cry in that callback, and she was the only one that did that. So it just became evident that, she was the right one for the role. And then, after that, the way that we worked together on it was really working on the physicality of the character rather than the intellectual aspect of things, just because this Jeanne's character is a very physical one, very instinctive character. Even though she's very shy, she's also very courageous and very strong. So we wanted to show that duality, not intellectually with what she's saying, but more instinctively with the way she's reacting with people, but also with her body language. She's got like the way that we worked on it. We were like, so I wanted her feet to be really grounded, and for her to be very heavy from the bottom half of her body, but then the whole top of the body when she's alone. When she's with people, like it's still very much down, but the moment that she's alone, it kind of opens up to the sky and the stars and opens up to her more dreamy self. But she always has her feet like really well anchored on the ground. So she kind of always is playing with that duality, Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't notice like consciously, but
yeah, of course. Yeah, you're not meant to notice consciously.
No, that's really
it's meant to be unconscious and to kind of yeah.
We have one last caller coming in through Skype, and it's also Zoe Michelle.
Oh yes, hi Zoe.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
We're hearing you. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, hi Zoe. Nice to meet you. I really love the film, and my question is actually, well, not simple, but how did you came up with the name Jumbo? And is it a reference also to the elephant? Because we saw that in the dialogue as well. And because we saw some elephants, like her piggy bank was an elephant and on her backpack was an elephant as well. What is the meaning of that?
Originally, I was just looking for a nice nickname for a ride. I was like, what is a nickname that would be welcoming and warm? And so my first thought is, I grew up in Africa, and some of the places in Central Africa, to say welcome, you say Jumbo Bwana. And so Jumbo Bwana, that was the first part. And then I was like, oh, is that really the real name? And I kept on thinking, and I remember looking on the internet for other meanings for the word jumbo or Bwana. And then I saw that jumbo. It reminded me, because I had already heard about that story of not Dumbo the elephant, but Jumbo the elephant, which is the original name for Dumbo that Dumbo is inspired from. And so I just love the idea of this jumbo elephant that was so special and so unique. And, he was kind of like the first elephant everybody was seeing, but like he was mistreated as well. So I just liked everything I was seeing around that word, and that's why I kind of settled for Jumbo.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
and so I'm really glad you noticed that. Obviously, it's mentioned in the film, the reference to Dumbo and the potential confusion. But I'm glad you also noticed the smaller references, on the backpack or on the piggy bag and everything.
Yeah. In
the bar, there's one as well, if you see.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, we have to rewatch it then.
Rewatch it. Spot you everywhere. Where the elephants are.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for responding on social media and Skype. I'm sorry we didn't get to do all of the questions, but Zoe, it was so nice having you at our first.
Yeah, to be honest, this was so cool. I'm so glad so many people interacted with us, and it's so interesting to respond like that live. Oh, and I just want to say, if you guys want to have some questions for Noemi Merlan, the main actress who plays Jeanne, we're going to be on Instagram Live, just her and I having a conversation in French and English, depending on whether we have international people coming in. So tomorrow on either Noemi's Instagram, Noemi Merlan, or my Instagram @Woodlet_Zoe, if you want to talk to Noemi and have some questions for her.
Yeah, cool. We'll put in the details. Somewhere.
Somewhere. Or not, but like you'll find it. It's easy. Cool. It's Instagram. You find everybody and everyone on Instagram. But yeah.
Okay, Zoe, thanks so much. This is
Thank you.
For tonight, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and hopefully see you another time at the next viewing party.
Yeah. Okay. Good concept. Enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao. Bye.